So very important to check out. This is a high bar setup. I'm going to check both sides because I want to make sure I'm centered. I see it a lot where people are not actually centered. Make sure it's the same amount of inches from one shoulder to the next, and check in the mirror if you have one. Now I'm digging into my traps. I push my traps up into the bar as if the bar is actually being held by my shoulder blades. That's essentially what you're doing. You're making a shelf for the shoulder blades. Do not let this sit on your cervical spine and on your spinal cord itself. This should be on the meat of the shoulders. Push those traps up and you're going to create that shelf. I also brace my core so there's a ton of air in my rib cage. My stomach is just a big belly full of air. Now I'm ready to brace and walk out this weight that's really heavy. Make sure you understand how to do this well before you load the bar heavy. From here, feet can be about hip width or a little bit wider. Quite often it's a little bit wider for good stability. Toes can be slightly out, but you want to narrow that as much as you can. I have a huge belly full of air because that's where all of my core keeps really tight. And then I'm dropping my hips behind me as I drop my weight down, and I do bend my knees. So I'm going to think of controlling the feet. I'm going to think of pushing my knees outwards. I'm going to think of my hips dropping behind me. I'm going to think of a belly full of air. And I'm also going to try to make sure that I keep my chest from not facing down too much. Now, if you see from this angle, my knees do come forward. You do need your knees to come forward, but I have limited ankle mobility. So if I have more ankle mobility, I could allow them to come more forward, but because I don't, the bar actually comes forward. Now that's okay, but the more it comes forward, the harder it's going to be on my back, and that's why it's very important to actually improve ankle mobility prior to doing this. If you start to feel a real discomfort with low back stress, this could be due to too much hip hinge, meaning the chest comes forward, and not enough ankle flexion in allowing that knee to come forward. I want you to notice here that I get pretty good depth, and most people can't get this far, but this is about parallel, a little bit lower. I want you to aim for as far as you can go without it causing a lot of damage. Don't load the bar unless you can go to near your full range of motion each time. And again, I just want you to focus on seeing how the hips drop back, but the knees come down, and I keep that core really full of air so that it can push off of my feet into my quads and glutes all at the same time. I don't want to feel like it's more of a hinge, which would mean just the back extending. I want the quads pushing and the hips hinging simultaneously each and every rep.